Good morning and welcome to today's Cabinet meeting. This is not a public meeting, but a meeting the public can attend. I'm Roger Jones, Mayor of Doncaster, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's meeting. Before we commence proceedings, I'd like to outline domestic arrangements for the meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice today. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building and congregate the other side of the water in front of CAS, please. This meeting will be recorded and published on the Council's website. By entering the Council chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcast by the Council. If anyone intends to record today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. Thank you. I will now commence the meeting. Item 1. Apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Holbrook, Councillor Cole and Councillor Smith. Are there any further apologies for absence, please? Thank you. Item 2, exclusions of the public and press. There are no items on the agenda today where the public and press are to be excluded. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 3, public statements and questions. We have no public questions or statements today. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No. Item 5, decision records from the meeting held on the 22nd of May 2024. These have been previously circulated and are for noting only. Agreed? Item 6, equity and inclusion and dedicated schools grant and high needs block funding update. I will invite Councillor Sue Farmer, Cabinet Member for Equalities, Education and Skills, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet colleagues will be aware of the huge pressures following changes to legislation around SEND and the subsequent impacts of the COVID pandemic. Across the country, the high needs deficit is likely to reach £3.6 billion by March 2025, with the vast majority of councils carrying a high needs deficit. Like most authorities, we have felt this pressure here in Doncaster. Since 2019, the actual number of plans overseen by the local authority has increased steeply, from 1,898 in 2019 to 2,758 in 2024, an increase of 45%. Requests for assessments for education, health and care plans continue to grow in number, with 238 requests in 2017, 620 in 22, and 786 requests over the last calendar year. This pressure has been created and exacerbated by increasing concerns around school finances and the lack of national drivers to ensure quality provision and inclusion in schools. Our high needs deficit has grown quickly and has only been in balance only 5 years ago. Sorry about that. This is a complex problem which is difficult to address without effective legislation. However, we have made significant strides in Doncaster over the last 18 months, and our work is taking increasingly effect. This report sets out our local response, noting the complexity of change that must happen to improve our outcome whilst controlling our spending. It also sets out we have worked closely with a range of partners to improve our local systems. The efficiency and accessibility of our systems to issue education, health and care plans have improved considerably. We are now performing well above the national average. We have developed a large range of provisions aimed at supporting our school systems. We have opened new provisions, changed the way schools identify and meet needs, and are training all of our practitioners to spot difficulties early and make a difference when we have done so. Our progress has been noted by key partners such as the Department of Education and Ofsted. but even more striking when we consider the case studies included in the appendices of this report. Impacts so far include efficiency of issuing education healthcare plans against the national 20-week deadline. This is improving strongly. Our Q4 performance was 76.7%, ahead of the national average of 49%. We have already opened our new enhanced resource provision for the social, emotional and mental health needs. This will offer 42 places for Doncaster children when fully operational. This will also provide avoidance costs of 6.9 million over 3 years. Supported internships undertaken by young people have grown from 1 in 2023 to 9 this year, with a growing group of employers now committed to expanding the range of opportunities through our SEND Employees Forum. Academic outcomes and absences for children and young people with SEND have improved over the last year. Also, the total not in education, employment or training percentage for all Doncaster young people with education, health and care plans have reduced from 11.9% in February 2023 to 7.9% in February 2024. The education, health and care plan figures for 18 to 25-year-olds is 8.1%, which is lower than regional and national averages. There is substantial scrutiny over our spending decisions, and this is leading to a much more positive trend around high needs spending. Our mitigating actions have now nearly halved our high needs trajectory for April 2027. The impacts in this area include the trajectory of placements has declined. By January 2024, 4 children and young people were placed in out of authorities for SEND, compared to 44 in the corresponding period the previous year. The overall spend of out-of-area placements for children with disabilities has reduced by 23% since last financial year. Our medium-term financial plans project a decline in education, direct school grants, cost of out-of-area placements by 2026-27 by dropping by 12.6% to 14.5 million. We have a clear plan to extend the impact of this work. Again, that has been praised by the Department of Education. We will now aim to improve leadership and accountability in schools. We will fund schools earlier to meet the needs of a broader range of pupils on a consistent basis. Our plans also set out how we will increase the range of specialists and assessment places on offer in Doncaster. These will have the impact of meeting needs earlier, whilst also ensuring children and young people can stay within their communities and friendship groups for their education. These changes will support greater saving while ensuring a high quality of delivery. I therefore ask the Cabinet to note the progress and impacts outlined in this report and formally accept our new SEND capital grant, so that we can press on with the changes we need to make to ensure we can deliver a new landscape of help and support for children and families across Doncaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farmer. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this item. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's fair to say that obviously it's a very positive mood in terms of sort of like the support that's been given with this grant, and obviously as a local authority we're happy to accept it. but we need to understand fully the context that surrounds it as well. This is not something that's just crept up, and Doncaster is not an isolated case. This is a national issue. So we're looking at this affecting all local authorities across Britain. Again, I think it's fair to say that a recent report in The Guardian highlighted the overspend costs nationally at £3.5 billion. So the government's been aware of this for many, many years, and the government's not addressed it. And what they're attempting to do at this moment in time is to apply sticking plasters to this chronic underfunding, really, in terms of, obviously, this element of schools funding. So whilst it's great to, obviously, have some commitment in terms of the grant, there needs to be that understanding that there's a national context set against it, and Doncaster's not alone, and also the fact that this has been ongoing for many years and it's not been addressed by this current government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Joe.
Thank you, Chair. I think we need to stress that the real significance of this, it's a capital grant, it's not a revenue grant. It doesn't help in terms of the problems that we have in terms of revenue, but very welcome in terms of capital, which may facilitate the development of our provision in bricks and mortar, so that we can begin to bring people or more people back from out of authority placements, which are extremely expensive, back home where they really ought to be, and the sooner it happens, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any other hands raised, and therefore I will read out the recommendations within the report. And that is that Cabinet agrees to 1, note and review the progress that the local system in Doncaster is making despite escalating challenges. 2, support the strategic intent in terms of future sufficiency, noting how this will contribute to future cost avoidance. 3, accept the high needs capital grant of 5.58 million from the Department for Education. And 4, provide delegated authority to the Executive Director of Children, Young People and Families in consultation with the Chief Financial Officer and Service Director of Finance and Technology and Cabinet Member for Equalities, Education and Skills to take decisions on this allocation within its terms and conditions, and to finalise indicatively costed plans detailed in the body of the report. Colleagues, are these recommendations moved? Are they seconded? Therefore, they are agreed. Thank you. I now move on to item 7, which is inception of the South Yorkshire Joint Waste Plan. I will invite Councillor Glyn Jones, Deputy Mayor, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. I present to Cabinet this morning an important first step towards a new joint waste plan for South Yorkshire. This new plan will ensure that we have a complete, up-to-date planning policy framework in place that ensures we are planning for our waste needs over the next 15 years across our sub-region. Once adopted, the plan will become part of the Council's statutory development plan and provide the basis for determining all planning applications with respect to waste matters. The existing Barnsley, Doncaster and Rotherham joint waste plan was adopted back in 2012, so many of its policies need to be reviewed and updated to reflect the changes to national legislation. The latest evidence and understanding of waste needs incorporated and changes to cross-boundary movement, such as the opening of new regionally significant facilities and new municipal waste sites. The plan will help provide right facilities to recycle, treat and dispose of waste to address long-term needs, with a continued movement towards a circular economy, maximising the value of resources we use and minimising the waste we create. The plan will, in combination with the private sector, drive towards cleaner and more efficient methods such as waste reduction, composting, recycling and energy recovery, ultimately achieving the most sustainable option for Doncaster and the region, and helping deliver Team Doncaster's priorities around creating safer, stronger, greener and cleaner communities. This plan is separate to, but will complement the municipal waste strategy, being produced within and by the South Yorkshire Municipal Waste Partnership. The report before us seeks to approve the appropriate resources to ensure the new plan can be adopted by each of the 4 South Yorkshire local planning authorities by autumn 2027. The report identifies a timetable for preparation of the plan, including various statutory stages of engagement with stakeholders and communities to inform the emerging joint waste plan from the offset. This will also need to be examined by an independently appointed government inspector to make sure it has been prepared in accordance with all the relevant legislation and policy, based on robust evidence, and that its policies will be fit for purpose. As such, Cabinet will receive future reports as the plan emerges and progresses through its various stages. But for now, as per the recommendations and options considered in the report, I hope you can join me in taking the formal decision to progress the South Yorkshire Joint Waste Plan and commit the associated resources required to deliver the plan. I commend this, Chair. Thank you.
Colleagues, are there any questions or statements in respect of this report, please? Joe.
Quite simply, to support the recommendation that's already been made by the Deputy Chair. I think it's something that we need to do. 2012 is a long time since legislation has changed, has already been stated. We need to have something that's current. I recommend it. If it's not already been accepted as being recommended, I second it if it's already been recommended.
Thank you. Is there anything further, colleagues? No, I will therefore read out the recommendations within the report, and that are that Cabinet agrees to 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, support the inception of a new South Yorkshire Joint Waste Plan. Is that moved, colleagues? Seconded? Therefore, the recommendations are agreed. I now move on to item 8, which is South Yorkshire Airport City Programme. I will introduce this report. We continue to make considerable progress on our plan to save and reopen our airport. I have reported previously how the signing of the lease for 125 years marks a considerable milestone in Doncaster's future economic prosperity, and that we cannot simply rest on our laurels if we are all truly going to collectively achieve our South Yorkshire Airport City concept, recognising that the decisions we make today and in the future will be instrumental in providing the structure to be an anchor for other aviation-related industries, helping to put Doncaster and South Yorkshire at the forefront of sustainable aviation-related technologies. It is on that basis I present today's report to Cabinet on South Yorkshire Airport City Programme, detailing how the City of Doncaster Council is currently engaged in a European procurement process to identify an operator within the ability and experience to take the steps necessary to reopen the airport, return it to profitability, and to take forward the South Yorkshire Airport City concept. This report clearly articulates the decision-making timescales, as well as the other associated activities required prior to the conclusion of the procurement process. The report goes on further to detail how we have instigated the removal of the previous Article 4 Planning Directive, recognising that since this council have obtained the lease, this is no longer a programme risk. In addition, in the context of the Civil Aviation Authority and our collective concerns regarding the suspended airspace and the need to conclude the procurement process as soon as possible, the risk of the airspace being suspended would be a major setback for the opening of the airport. As such, this report recommends the delegated authority to be given to the Council's Director of Corporate Resources in consultation with me to ratify the outcome of the Council's procurement process and to agree such contractual and other legal documentation that are necessary to conclude the project. This is all part of our carefully managed plan and the necessary processes involved. Recognising the procurement process is hugely complex and detailed, and the threat of the removal of our airspace, I am keen we make the necessary steps to reopen the airport, return it to profitability, and to take forward the South Yorkshire Airport City concept, which is a wider programme of economic growth and regeneration for Doncaster and UK PLC. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our dedicated team of officers and our external aviation and legal advisors for progressing with this incredibly challenging and complex piece of work. A reopened airport has incredible potential for Doncaster, and I truly believe it can be the jewel in the crown of the economy for Doncaster and South Yorkshire. Thank you. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this item. Colleagues, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe it's impossible to overstate the potential that Doncaster Airport has for this authority, for the other authorities in South Yorkshire and beyond. I commend the work that's been carried out to date by you, by this Cabinet, by this Council and by the officers of this Council, because they have put blood, sweat and tears into actually progressing this as far as it is now. And where it is now, one would hope, is very near to a successful completion and a contract with an operator to bring Doncaster Airport back to life. And as I've said already, the potential for this airport to impact on the prosperity of this town, South Yorkshire and the UK is absolutely enormous and cannot be overstated. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Glenn.
Thank you, Chair. Following on from Joe, I'm very happy with this report and the significant progress that has been made at an achievable pace by Doncaster Council and partners in doing this to get to the place where we are currently. I must state that this has occurred without any help or support from central government. I also note from the report, Chair, that the CAA, the Civil Aviation Authority, have concerns over the unmonitored airspace, and we do require a definitive outcome that would endeavour to seek a positive resolution from that. We also note that the reopening of DSA is massively crucial to as an economic driver for Doncaster and for the South Yorkshire region. And I particularly look forward to the businesses and especially residents that will benefit from this much anticipated reopening. I thank you, Chair.
We cannot go without thanking all involved, and this has been considerable time, effort, but more so we are listening to our businesses and to our residents. No one can ever anticipate over 130,000 people actually signing a petition to get our airport reopened. And with a lot of hard work, we are hopeful that this will come to fruition. We've passed certain time spots now, and we look forward to when we can hopefully announce an operator that will drive forward the prosperity of this, our borough. Thank you. I will now read out the recommendations within the report. and that is that Cabinet delegates the decision to ratify the outcome of the Council's procurement process and to agree such contractual and other legal documentation as are necessary to conclude the project to the Executive Director of Corporate Resources in consultation with the Mayor. Is that moved, colleagues? Seconded? And therefore it is approved. Thank you. We now move on to item 9, which is Q4 Finance and Performance Improvement Record. I will introduce this report. I am pleased to introduce the Q4 Finance and Performance Report for 23-24 and to outline how the Council continues to deliver whilst operating in a challenging and uncertain environment. The year-end outturn position is a 3.1 million underspend, which is a significant achievement given the financial challenges that we continue to experience, including the impact of the previously high inflationary and service-specific pressures. The overall improvement from Q3 is due to lower spend than forecast in both adult and children's social care, additional income received in the last quarter of the year, and energy underspends of over 2.2 million due to reduced energy prices. The outturn position provides the opportunity to target specific one-off investment towards the priorities highlighted by our residents, including 0.8 million investment for additional road resurfacing to match additional funding from government from Network North, £1 million targeted interventions to tackle antisocial behaviour in our city and principal towns in advance of receiving the long-term plan for towns funding, and to set aside 1.5 million towards the capital cost to deliver a new leisure facility for Edlington. The outturn position also provides a sound baseline for our current 24-25 financial year. The financial challenges will continue and will require close management, with several service pressures to be managed and additional savings targets for 24-25. Nearly all councils have struggled over the past financial year, especially with some facing almost bankruptcy, issuing Section 114 notices and making massive cuts to services. I am proud that the City of Doncaster Council are still able to deliver the day-to-day business of value for money services, stay within budget and provide additional one-off funding to tackle the priorities that matter most to the people and businesses of Doncaster. Our performance for Q4 also remains predominantly positive in face of these fiscal challenges. This is evidenced by the continued high performance in the collection of household waste and recycling, currently 99.5%. 96% of referrals of children missing in education into the service have been closed this quarter compared to 58% last year. 235 million investment into the city, which is 14% higher than 22-23. Doncaster has the highest proportion of care providers rated by the Care Quality Commission as good or outstanding in the Yorkshire and Humber region. We continue to review activity to improve our challenging areas of performance, which include Doncaster's ranking for persistent absence in secondary schools, 113 out of 151 local authorities. It's currently taking on 70 days on average for adaptations to be delivered once requested, and our recycling rate for household is 42.4%. This council continues to operate in really challenging circumstances, and despite this, we are delivering on or above the service standards set at the beginning of the year, which is a credit to the hard work and commitment from our workforce and our partners. I will now ask Cabinet members to indicate by raising their hand if they wish to ask any questions in relation to this item. Joe.
Simply a comment that we need to commend the work that's been done by our financial officers particularly, through these very traumatic times, and they have been traumatic. The cost of living has had a really adverse impact on this and probably every other authority in this country. But we've come out, in essence, smelling of roses. Difficult as though that may be, we've come out with a financial result that none of us expected, in reality. Came as a bit of a shock to us all, but the work that's been done to make us arrive at that position needs to be commended, and I commend it.
I will too endorse what's been said by Councillor Blackham. The work of all our officers in seeking to maintain their spend within budget is commendable. We know where added pressures have come on both our adults and children's services, and the social service aspect has been tremendous, and yet we are still out there delivering for our people, and therefore I'm delighted to see, with the slight underspend when you look in terms of percentage, that we're able to apply that to actually helping to improve our road standards, to actually take on board what our public is saying, which is about the roads, which is about people feeling safer. And we are actually using these underspends in order to deliver the priorities actually recommended by the public at large and our businesses. Therefore, I will now read out the recommendations within the report. That Cabinet approve and comment on Q4 performance and financial information, including approve the environments per the financial procedure rules detailed in Appendix A, financial profile. Note the allocations of block budgets in the capital programme detailed in Appendix A, financial profile, in accordance with the financial procedure rules. Note the carry forwards approved by the Chief Financial Officer detailed in the financial profile attached as Appendix A, financial profile. Approve the allocation of 3.1 from General Fund underspend and 0.2 from the release of earmarked reserves in 2024 as detailed in paragraph 141. And delegate approval of a spending plan for the £1 million additional funding target towards intervention to improve the safety of our city and principal town centres to the Executive Director of Place and the Service Director, Finance and Technology, in consultation with the relevant portfolio holder, detailed in paragraph 141. Colleagues, is that moved? Seconded? Therefore, that recommendations are agreed. We now move on to item 10, St Ledger Homes of Doncaster, key performance indicators and tenant satisfaction measures, update for Q4 and the year ended March 2024. I will now invite Deputy Mayor Glyn Jones, Cabinet Member for Housing and Business, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, before us today we have a set of papers from St Ledger Homes which include end-of-year performance against the key performance indicators set by this council for St Ledger Homes and the tenant satisfaction measures which were introduced as a regulatory requirement for the last financial year. Within the appendices are a series of detailed benchmarking information which enables us to consider the performance of St Ledger Homes against the social housing sector across the country. Also included are the tenant satisfaction measures schedule, which lists the results for 23-24. I will firstly address the 2023-24 end-of-year performance report. As we know, amongst the 22 key performance indicators we set St Ledger, some are very challenging targets. In 13 of these areas, St Ledger Homes are either meeting the target or are within agreed tolerances of the target. 4 targets are annual targets and are reported here, and in the 8 areas St Ledger Homes did not meet the target we set. Before commenting on the areas where targets were not met, I would like to mention a couple of areas for colleagues to note. Firstly, another exceptional performance on rent arrears, where the target was exceeded and also better than last year, all of which was in extremely challenging economic times with the cost of living crisis and high inflation. This, in turn, helped tenants sustain their tenancies. Secondly, with regards to repairs performance, it was good in the year and all building safety key performance indicators were met. Gas plus the 4 new tenant satisfaction measures for fire, asbestos, Legionella and communal lifts. I will address some of the areas now where targets were not met. KPIs 2 and 3 relate to rent loss on void properties and the time taken to let properties. And although not meeting targets when benchmarked against other social housing providers, St Leger compare favourably and score above the median on these indicators. Although St Leger homes are not meeting our tough targets for KPIs 2 and 3, they are in fact performing extremely well in these areas, reflecting that this is a revision to both targets in 2024-25, with void rent loss now at 0.68% and relet times at 24 days. Whilst this is very challenging, every St Leger home standing empty is one less property we can offer to a homeless family or those on the housing register, and we will continue to ensure St Leger prioritise this critical area through a sustained focus on those matters. In fact, St Leger homes have continued to demonstrate a sustained improvement in both KPIs throughout the financial year, with both end-of-year figures being similar and an improvement from those at 2022-2023 year-end. In relation to KPIs 4 and 5, which deal with homelessness, I want to reiterate the points I have made previously. Firstly, as a council, we will continue to do all we can to assist those that are forced to live without a permanent home. Secondly, Doncaster is not unique. Every council across the country is experiencing homelessness issues like never before. As a council, we are doing far more than within our statutory duties, the simple reason being it is the right thing to do. It is a failing of the whole housing system that sees housing being unaffordable, too few houses built, and a benefit system that doesn't provide enough support to cover private rents. The third point I will make is that the target on preventions at 60% was set with the advice of the government. They subsequently advised that they had got it wrong, and it should have been about half of where it was set based on their advice. That said, St Leger and the relevant council departments have a renewed focus on all aspects of the process to deal with the increasing and at times unrelenting demand for support in this area. The second report in the pack, Appendix C, is the tenant satisfaction measures schedule for 2023-24, which includes the results of tenant perception surveys undertaken in the year and will be submitted to the regulator by the required end of June deadline. In this tenant satisfaction measures report, we note good news in that St Leger Homes performed positively overall and is in the top 25% of comparable landlords for most measures. St Leger Homes performed especially well in areas of satisfaction with fair treatment and respect, demonstrating confidence in property safety and contentment with property repairs. The results have been benchmarked against Housemarque, and this will continue as further reports become available. Overall, the report demonstrates a strong set of results for St Leger Homes. I again commend this report, Chair. Thank you.
Colleagues, any questions or statements in respect of the report in front of you? Joe?
Just a brief comment in relation to supporting what's just been said by Councillor Jones. I believe that the performance of St Leger Homes has been a very good performance. It usually is, so it came as no surprise. However, having said that, they're embarked on the journey of continuous improvement, and we have to recognise that there is scope for improvement, and we can be assured that that improvement will continue. Thank you.
Nigel?
Thanks, Chair. I suppose I just wanted to make a few brief comments on key performance indicator number 4 in terms of number of households placed in hotel accommodation at month end. We know that this target has not been met, but we're also aware of some of the issues that have created this problem. And this is, again, contextually, this is not something that is just in Doncaster, it's national. When you look at the number of households that are presenting, not just single people, but families these days that need housing, effectively because either landlord has sold the property or the rent has become too high, it's almost like a tsunami that's hitting local authorities. It's worth noting as well that since 2010, the cost of living crisis, it's been going on a while now, has really hit people. So we're looking at, a 300% increase really in terms of food bank usage. And some of these people are working, some of these people are holding jobs down and they're having to go to food banks. And we're also looking, at homelessness increases over the same period, over 14 years of austerity. What's most telling more than anything else, though, is that the recent DWP figures, Department of Work and Pensions, their own figures, have highlighted that a third of all kids in this country now live in poverty. And clearly that is having a massive effect. So the cost of living crisis, the rise of inflation, the fact that obviously people are failing to make ends meet, you've got obviously landlords selling properties up or putting rents too high, is having a massive effect on us as a local authority being able to accommodate these people. And that's why you're seeing that increase in terms of people being put into hotel accommodation, because we just haven't got the social housing. So I just wanted to make that point. And I think it's worth reiterating that Doncaster, again, is not a special case. This is something that's happening nationally. Thank you, Chair.
I can't see any others. A couple of points that I wish to make, and I'll reiterate what Councillor Jones said, and it's about voids. Whilst ever we have voids, it's a house that's not there for someone to make into a home. So we know we set extremely hard targets, but there's no apologies for this, because we want to utilise every property we've got, and every day lost in letting the void property is one, loss of income, but as importantly, someone not in a home. Secondly, the tenant satisfaction levels has fallen, and of course we've been informed that it's fallen through all the people that they actually compare themselves with. However, this is about our Doncaster residents, and we'd like to see them continue to strive to improve tenant satisfaction levels overall. And the final thing is about responsive repairs completed within target timescales. Again, we always do very stretched targets. No apologies for this, because we want to see repairs done as soon as possible. So with that, but I will commend all the work that St Leger Homes are doing in order to move towards making our people's homes a better place to live, and the satisfactions there will grow. So with that, I will read out the recommendations that are within the report, and that is that Cabinet notes the progress of St Leger Homes' performance and the contribution St Leger Homes makes to supporting Doncaster Council's strategic priorities. Colleagues, is that moved? Seconded? Therefore, the recommendations are agreed. With that, colleagues, that brings us to the end of the agenda. I thank you all for attending, and I now close the meeting. Thank you.